For this video, I'm going to be going over my entire Ancient Black Dragon MOC from head to tail, taking a look at each section, breaking down some of the techniques I used, some interesting features or parts of the creation that I'm really happy with, and also some of the challenges I faced and things that I would change or do differently next time. We'll start at the head. This is probably the most distinctive feature of this MOC. It has the two large bull-like horns that protrude from either side of its head. It gives it that classic outline when you're looking at it from above or from the side. The jaw structure is the same one as the Creator 3-in-1 T-Rex. It's just a simple hinge in the back that allows the entire lower jaw to move independently. I'm really happy with how this turned out, considering this is where I started and I haven't really done this before, so this was a pretty good first attempt. I am a little unhappy with the teeth. They are black because the same pieces that I use stick up through the top, and you can see right here. And had those been white, they would have had white stripes on the top here and also white stripe on the bottom. I'm sure there's another way I could have done that differently, and I'll take a look at that on the next creation. But for this one, the teeth remain black. I am happy with the eyes. You can see the corner of just a 1x2 sticking out right here. Gives it a small, beady green eye that I'm really happy with. I also really like how spiky this is. You look at it from the front, it has tons of different angles of spikes protruding from it, both on the bottom here and on the back. And the whole head is held into these neck segments with just a simple ball joint. Gives it some nice freedom of movement and keeps it steady. It doesn't sag at all when you position it, and it works for the purpose of this build. Moving on to the neck pieces. Most of the segments in this build are built using the same pattern, both on the neck and the tail. They just consist of the ball in the socket, butted end to end, with a plate that holds them together, and then a set of bracket snot blocks that hold everything on. So this is part of the design for it. Just a row of brackets, some 1x1 slopes on the bottom, some slopes on the side, and then these 2x2 and 1x2 curved panels that hold it onto the snot blocks on the top. I think it's pretty simple. It gives it a really nice shape. I debated doing something round on the top, but that would have gotten rid of the ability to put the spikes, which I think look better overall. We then move on to the front leg, which is probably my least favorite part of this whole build, simply because of the structural integrity. These bottom two joints are just the small ball and socket joints, and they really allow for a lot of movement, but at the same time, they have a hard time keeping up with the weight of the entire build. And it has a tendency, especially on really slippery surfaces, to splay out to the side and collapse. So I'll more than likely be fixing that with either some kind of hinge here that only allows one direction of movement, or maybe I'll beef it up to include this type of connection. Other than that, I am really proud of the shape of the leg, especially this upper kind of bicep area and even the lower forearm, although I'm not a big fan of the studs that stick out on the bottom. I do like the foot. The foot went through several different design changes due to stability purposes, like I said, and I settled on this design, which gave it a large enough footprint to actually hold up to the weight and stay balanced, while at the same time not being too bulky and looking disproportionate to the rest of the build. The back legs were built after the front legs, and therefore they have less mobility. They only have the large joint which connects to the body up here, and then they have a large ball and socket joint at the foot, which works much better for maintaining balance and keeping the MOC standing. I really like the overall shape. The down over down design I think really looks good, and this is also loosely based off of that same 3-in-1 T-Rex. Aside from this ball and socket joint down here being the different size, the foot is the same design as the front, with the same 3 claws, the same top, the same side design as well. And I'm really glad that I was able to get both of those to look the same. I think it really squares out the build. The body was probably the hardest part of this entire build for me, solely because of the aesthetic reasons. There's a lot of smooth and curved pieces here. And the belly here you can see sits at an odd angle, which is not normally achievable with bricks, but was achieved with bars and clips on the inside. The gaps in this front section are a little bit bigger than I would have liked, but this allows me to open up the chest and actually store minifigures in here that the dragon would have eaten. So you can see here, this skeleton's been in there for quite a long time. It goes on there, and it just closes up nicely. Other than that, the body really only has connection points for joints and other things. You can see the front leg connection here, the connection for the wing up top, back legs at the bottom, and then this ball right here actually clips onto the wings and is the rear attachment point for the wing fabric. Although this was the most difficult part of the build for me, I think it's probably my favorite, all said and done, because of all the unique curves and shapes. Moving on to the tail, it's built using a lot of the same techniques as the neck, especially in this section, and this section. And then beyond that, it turns into the smaller ball and joint sections, and you can see it just tapers down using plates to another ball joint at the end with a large spike on the back. There's not a whole lot that's revolutionary in this part, but it does stand up on its own. It is rigid enough to be posed in pretty much any configuration and not fall over. The only real weak point being this first small ball connection and the actual attachment point into the base of the body. There's just a lot of weight hanging off of this one large ball joint, especially when the tail is straight out. The last section that I'm going to be talking about is the wing. The wing was really fun to work on. It went through 3 or 4 different design iterations, all of which were complete overhauls before I finally settled on this one. It just uses the large Technic axles with these flexible joints in between. All connects up here to some ball joints, which can allow the wing to actually fold up any direction, and then into the same wing connection that most of the Lego dragons use. I will say, with the size of the wing, this connection right here is actually a little weak and has a tendency to sag when extended all the way out. So I will need to work on something for that later if I want to go any bigger than this. The wing fabric itself is actually a custom piece by me. I built the frame in the shape that I wanted, and when I was finally happy with that, I took a large piece of fabric, traced out the design of the wing, and used a hole punch to punch holes for all of the small ball joints that would fit through. Overall, I'm really happy with how the whole wing turned out. I think it gives the build a good sense of scale. As the rest of it's rather thin, this really fills it out and gives it a presence. There are a couple things I would probably change, specifically this section here. I'm not super happy with how the Technic holes are still exposed. I might end up adding some 1x whatever tiles along the edge here just to cover up the holes, or as well as some inverted tiles here just to smooth out this section of the wing. But for right now, I'm happy with where it sits. Overall, building this MOC was a really fun and challenging experience. I've never really built a MOC before, so as I was building, I was also learning, which was a really fun experience, but there are definitely some things, especially structure internal-wise, that I would do differently next time. But overall, I'm really happy with how it all turned out, and this experience has just made me want to try more. I'll probably end up sticking with the monster theme since I have more experience with that than anything else. I'll probably branch into scenes for whatever creatures I create, or maybe some buildings for them to knock down. But whatever I end up building next will definitely be better than this, and the one after that will be better than the next one. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or any comments or design tips or tricks or things you want to know, please let me know down below. And if you want to see more, consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it, and it lets me know that people either like what I'm doing or don't. So thank you again, and I will see you in my next video.